Good morning, friends. Good morning, good morning. Come on in, everybody. Come on in, come on in. Let me see here if I can paste this while we wait for y'all to jump in. There we go. Casey's in the house. I see you down below. What's up, sis? What's up, everybody? Come on in, you guys. I have a special story to share with you. I'm in my little place of healing today, my little space of healing out here in the country. This is my aunt's property, and I've got a story to share with you. I've got a story to share with you today that I believe is really going to encourage you. I just got through going live with my crew and sharing my heart over there. And I just thought, you know what, there's not many times that I'm sitting out in this space. So I'm going to go live on my page because this is such a significant moment. I'm going to share with you guys in just a second. This is where I was at 6 years ago. You guys tell me if my sound is okay. I had to find my other phone because my other one died while I was on there with my crew. And this one has some trouble sometimes with the mic. But I'm going to try not to cause it many issues. But you guys come in. Please share this. I'm going to ask you to please share this. Mainly because this is going to be something that really encourages someone today. I don't know where you're at today. I don't know what you're looking at. I don't know what kind of hopelessness you may be standing in, what kind of valley you may be standing in. Good. Thank you, Casey. I don't know what it looks like, but I was sitting here 6 years ago. Okay. We're having coffee out here together. You guys, cheers. Boom. You guys actually, I'm not going to share the story yet. We only have 11 people in here. Get some more people in here. We've got to get more people in here because this is like this moment right here, right down there on that picnic table, and right over here in this tree line 6 years ago shifted everything in my life. It shifted everything in my life. And I don't know where you are today, and maybe you feel like you're in the midst of a very hopeless situation. Maybe you feel like you don't know what to do next. Maybe you feel like you don't know what it's going to look like. You don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to work. You don't know. But I know that we know the who. And when we know the who, everything shifts. When we know the who, everything changes. When we know the who, we can count on it. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. Somebody put down below, done deal. Done deal. We are in Arkansas. I am fixing to do a service in Warren, Arkansas this Wednesday. And it's going to be awesome. You guys need to come check it out. Lighthouse Church. Come join. Bring some friends. I'm expecting miracles. I'm expecting deliverances. I'm expecting salvations. I'm expecting Jesus to do his thing, not because of me, but because of who he is. And then we head over to Oklahoma, and we go to Edmond, Oklahoma, and we go to Lexington, Oklahoma. And then we come back to Arkansas, and we come back to Conway to do my very first pop-up event, my unfiltered conference. You guys don't miss out on it. We're going to do worship. We're going to share the word. We're going to dive into some things that are really going to transform your life if you allow it to. Bring some friends. RSVP to that by texting that number down below. Text the word Arkansas to that number down below that is pinned. And we're trying to get some numbers on that. That comes up the 24th of August. It's going to be awesome here at the Church Alive in Conway. And anyway, so I'm sitting out here in the country in a little space, in a little place that literally defined it will not be live. I will not be going live for the pop-up event. So, but I would love for you guys to come if you can. And if not, I am hosting other pop-up events around the nation. My next pop-up event that is scheduled so far is in Canton, Georgia, and it's going to be December 2nd. So if you want to host a pop-up event for me to come and do my thing and just say, here's a venue, we want to host you, you can book me down below and at my website, and we can set that up, and I think it will be awesome. But I am sitting in a little space where transformation took place for me 6 years ago, right at this table. West Virginia, hey, hook me up. I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back. Get me in touch with somebody that would love to have me, and I would love to come. So I was reflecting this morning, guys, because you know, the girls and I, we've been stepping out into this new season where we are, and maybe I should have went live on Brandon's page so that everybody over there could see it too, but that's okay. I'll just share it to his page later. But we are stepping into this new season where we are traveling. And we've been traveling still, but like this is for real, for real. Like we're for real stepping out into continuing on traveling and continuing on doing ministry and continuing plowing the legacy and the thing that Brandon and I were building together, and our family had vision for and purpose for. And you know, I came to this little space out here where my aunt lives, and she lives out here in the country, and it's so significant for me because I started thinking this morning that 6 years ago this month, 6 years ago this month, I was out here running this tree line right now. Not right now, but 6 years ago. I was out here running this tree line right here. Running and running and running and running and running and running all along this tree line out here. And I came and sat at this picnic table and had a moment with Jesus that shifted everything. And I don't know where you have been in your shift with Jesus, but man, it's so significant. Hello, Dawn. It's so significant to have those moments where everything changes, and to document those moments, document them, write them down, those spaces and places where God meets you in the midst of the thing that you are facing. Good morning, Deanna. You guys share this. This is going to be good. We're fixing to jump in. Ladoris, what's up? Share it, share it. And I remember 6 years ago, this month, I was walking through a season of divorce. I was walking through a season of divorce after 10 years of marriage. 10 years of doing full-time ministry with a man. 10 years of devoting my life and building a family and having children and sharing the gospel. 10 years. A decade. And 6 years ago, this month, this line of trees was where I ran and ran. I'm praying for you, Barbara. Where I ran and ran and ran and ran, and I was meeting with Jesus. And the thought process in my head was, God, what's going to happen to us next? Because my husband had come to me and told me he didn't want me anymore. He didn't want to be married. He didn't want to be in ministry. He didn't want to do it anymore. And so he left me. And my two girls and I were in a season of where everything seemed to be uprooted. Everything that we knew, everything that we, I'm praying for you, I'm praying for you. Everything that we knew, everything that we had built, everything that we had believed, everything that we were working towards had been uprooted. And I don't know if you have ever been there. If you've been there, give me a heart party. If you've been there, give me a comment down below. Have you ever been in a season where it seems like everything you worked for up until this point has been ripped out of the ground and thrown off to the side? And all that's left is a disheveled piece of land. All that's left, your heart feels like it's just a desolate place of just loneliness and agony and pain and despair. A reminder of what once was, a reminder of what could have been, but now it's completely ripped up. It's gone. You don't know what to do with it. You don't know what's going to come of it. You don't know when it's going to change, and it seems hopeless. That's how I was 6 years ago today, in this space, right here, running this tree line because I was fixing to sign my divorce papers. And I remember I fell to the ground. I just told my crew this. I fell to the ground right about there. Right about there. I fell to the ground in the sun. And I hit my knees after running and running and running and running and running and running. And I was running all over this property. I was running and running and running. And I was trying to get all the anger out of me. And I was trying to get all the pain out of me. And I was trying to get all the hurt out of me. And I had question marks. And I'm like, God, why? Why? When I committed my life to you, why am I going through this? How come you could not restore my marriage? How come it's not different? How come things are not shifting? Why? And I fell to my knees right about there. And I hit the ground. My face ate that grass. And I began to sob. I began to sob. I began to cry out 6 years ago this month. And I heard the Lord speak. This is what he said. Those that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. And he said, Alyssa, you cannot wait on me and worry at the same time. Alyssa, you cannot have faith in me and have fear at the same time. Alyssa, you cannot believe in me and be burdened with all of these things at the same time. Alyssa, you've got to make a decision right now. Right now. What are you going to do with this moment? What are you going to do with this pain? What are you going to do? How are you going to position yourself? Because how you position yourself will be what determines what produces out of this moment. How you position yourself right here. Right here. Let's walk over here. How you position yourself right here. Friend, where are you at right now? What's trying to kill you? What's trying to steal the purpose of God in your life? What's trying to lie to you and tell you you never will? What's trying to grab a hold of the destiny that God has for you and it's trying to choke it out? What's trying to abort the dreams inside of you before it has a chance to breathe? What is trying to dictate to you what happens next? Right about here, I made a decision. Right about here, I made a decision. And I laid on this ground right here 6 years ago, running up and down this tree line. And I laid here. And I laid here and I looked up at these trees. And the Lord told me, the posture of your faith, the posture of your faith is what determines what takes root. Friend, it's the size of a mustard seed. Just breathe. It's the size of a mustard seed. God is not asking you to do something so big that it's impossible. He's saying the size of a mustard seed. But the endurance is what counts. You cannot plant a seed in faith and dig it up a week later because God hasn't done it yet. You cannot plant a seed in faith and dig it up and get mad at God that it's not producing. If it's in your hand, it's not in the ground. If it's in your hand, it does not have the ability to produce roots. Stop getting angry at God. Stop blaming the devil. Stop blaming circumstances. Stop blaming situations. Faith cannot produce if it is not planted where God has asked you to plant it. You cannot uproot something and get mad at God because you're the one digging it up. Well, how do you dig it up when you don't endure? When you don't endure long enough. It only takes the size of a mustard seed. Faith the size of a mustard seed. I was laying on this ground right here, looking up at these trees. 6 years ago this month, going through divorce, trusting in the Lord, waiting on him, trusting in him. I don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't know how. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know how it's going to change. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know how it could get any better. I don't get it, and I never will. There's question marks, and there doesn't seem to be any answers, and I don't know why, but I know the who. I know the who, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters when you have faith. And so when God tells you believe, because you're going to have this. Believe because I said peace is yours. Believe because provision is already here. Believe because I am going to give you X, Y, and Z. You answer that. You answer that. I can't tell you what God is telling you. You got to figure out what God is telling you, friend. And that's the other thing. We've got to stop relying on other people to hear God for us. Nobody, no prophet, no man or woman of God met me in this place. This place right here where Jesus met me 6 years ago this month, no man or woman of God met me on this hill. Jesus met me on this hill because I had to learn to hear him for myself. And I fell to my knees, fixing to go through divorce. And God said, if you believe, I can restore it. If you believe, I can heal. If you believe, I can produce something great out of this. If you believe it, plant it in faith and watch it happen. Watch it happen. Watch it happen. And so I came over here. I got up from that place right there. And I said, God, every single thing, every single bit of pain, every single tear, every single bit of turmoil you're going to use. You're going to use it. You're going to use it because I believe it. And I came over here to this little bit of land. This little bit of land that my aunt always has beautiful fruits and vegetables and stuff growing. And the Lord began to speak to me. And he said, Alyssa, these seeds do not produce without stewardship. These seeds do not produce without stewardship. So if I tell you something is yours, if I give you a word, if I give you a prophecy, if I give you a promise, whether it's found in my word, whether it's found over here in the tree lines, and I told you you're not done yet, whether it's found in your prayer time, whether it's found from a man or woman of God that called you and said, thus saith the Lord, if I give you a word, it is a seed that must be stewarded well. And whether or not that word produces fruit on the vine is not my fault. It is your responsibility. It's your responsibility. Somebody type down below, it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility. And so I recognized it's not enough for them to just plow the ground. And it's not enough for them to just plant the seed. They have to water. They have to weed things. They have to nurture. They have to do what they've got to spray things. There's a whole process to this right here having produce. There's a whole process to this land right here having harvest. You can't just throw some seeds out there and expect it to produce. And some of you friends are just throwing some seeds out there and expecting it to produce and just leaving it up to God. And when it doesn't happen, you're angry. And when it doesn't happen, you're blaming the devil. And you're blaming Jesus. And you're blaming the false prophet. Well, that was just a false prophecy. No, can I tell you, when a man or woman of God gives you a word from the Lord and says, thus saith the Lord. I just spilled coffee all over me. Look at that. Listen to me. I'm going to pour this out because I think there was a bug in it anyway. When they give you a word from the Lord, listen to me and listen to me good. It is not God predicting what is going to happen. It is God telling you what his will is for your life. God is not a psychic. Prophets and people who come into your life are not psychics when they say, thus saith God. They are telling you what the will of God is concerning your life. But hear me. Are you listening? We were given free will, which is why our God is so good. We have the opportunity to make the decision what we're going to believe and what we're going to stand on and what we're going to receive. So when a word comes from God, whether it's in your prayer time, whether it's in the word of God, whether it's from a person, a word of the Lord has come. It is not God predicting this is just going to fall in your lap. Oh, it's just going to happen. The seed has been sown. You don't have to do anything else. It's just been thrown in the field and it's going to produce. Wrong, wrong, wrong. That is why so many people do not see prophetic words come to pass in their life, because they are expecting God to do all of the work. And then they get angry and then they start blabbing and grabbing and saying, you know what? Nope, that person over there, they're false prophets. That person over there, they're grabbing all this anger. They're grabbing all this resentment. They're grabbing all this hate. They're grabbing all this animosity because it didn't work for me. It didn't work for me. When you get a word from God, I need you to hear me today. I need you to hear me. If you will hear me, this will shift everything in your life. When you get a word from God, it is not prediction that this is going to happen no matter what you do. This is going to happen. It is the will of God concerning your life. And the will of God concerning your life has to be worked out on your own. It takes responsibility. And this is where we're going to see all of the numbers drop. And this is where we're going to see everybody jump off of this live right here, because nobody likes to take responsibility for their life. They like to blame God and they like to blame the devil. This is where we're going to see everybody jump off and say, nope, not receiving it, not listening to it. And you're going to stay stuck and you're going to stay bound and you're never going to see the promise and the prophetic words in your life come to pass, because you do not know how to be a true disciple of God. Disciples of God walk the walk, talk the talk, and sacrifice everything that needs sacrifice in order to protect the seed that God said is theirs to nurture. There is a difference in just being a believer and a disciple. A disciple will do whatever it takes to steward the thing that God said is theirs. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm literally preaching a sweat right now, so I hope you are. Rosie's coming over here to help me preach. Where is she? There she is. She's coming over there to help me preach. The will of God in your life requires responsibility. The will of God in your life requires the stewardship of posture for the seed that you are planting. You cannot just throw a seed in a field and not steward it and expect it to produce a harvest. That's just stupidity. And yet we believe we can throw some seeds out in a field and expect it to produce what God says, and we never revisit it. We never protect it. We never nurture it. We're not watering it. We're not uprooting the weeds that are trying to choke it out. We're not doing anything else. We just, oh, well, I threw the seed out there. It should be producing. Why is God not doing it? Well, the devil, he must be stealing my harvest. The devil must be. No, and you're the one over here not doing any work. The will of God requires work. Faith without works is dead. And it's not works to prove. It's not works to prove that you're worthy. It's not works to prove that you are qualified. It's not works to prove to God. Okay, if you're working to prove to God, you're doing it with a wrong heart posture. And you also won't receive, because your posture is wrong. Because you can never prove to God. You never can prove to God. That's why Jesus did the finished work on the cross, so that he can take that away from you. The proving is not something that you have to do. You're working not to prove. You're working because you're practicing. You're not proving. You're practicing your authority in Christ. So I'm working with God and stewarding the seeds that he said are mine and will produce in my life, not because I'm proving to him I can, but because I'm practicing my dominion and my authority that he gave me on the cross when he stretched his arms out wide and said, it is finished. And when he ascended into heaven and said, go and take authority, go do everything that I did. I'm not working this seed because I'm trying to prove. I'm working this seed because I'm practicing who he says I am. And I understand that the will of God requires work. If he gave me a word, I cannot expect it to produce on its own. There's a work that I must do in order to steward that thing. Over there in the tree line, 6 years ago, this month, I made a decision to steward a seed that God told me, you are not done. This divorce may be a thing. You may be losing a lot right now, but you are not finished. You are moving forward. You will see the goodness of God. You have destiny inside of you. There will be something that produces from this dirt right here. And I never knew that a whole book would be written from that moment over there. A whole book, Unfiltered, was written because of that moment over there when I collapsed in the tree line and I said, God, I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know why, I don't understand. And God said, but you know the who. God said, I will bring destiny out of this dirt. God said, I will produce something great. Do you believe I can restore it? It may look different, but do you believe? He said, you have to wait on me. You cannot wait on me and worry at the same time. You cannot have faith in me and have fear at the same time. And I made a decision in this tree line over here 6 years ago that I will not be moved by what I see and feel and hear, but only by what God said. If God said it, I believe it, that settles it. And I understand if he gave me a word concerning my life, it will require work. It does just not manifest on its own. It does not just manifest on its own. I have to steward that seed by planting it in faith and then nurturing it with the water of the word, with the words of my mouth, with the belief in my heart, by pulling up the roots of things that are trying to choke out the thing that God said is mine and saying, no, I will not listen to that lie. I will not listen to that victim mentality. I will not allow things in my life to create atmosphere that is going to hinder this seed from growing. I'm protecting my ear gates. I'm protecting my eye gates. I'm protecting my atmosphere. I'm not putting people in my position and in my circle that are going to uproot the thing that I have planted. I have a responsibility. That means I got to do things differently. I got to do it differently. I got to do it differently. If I want to see it produce, I've got to do something differently. And out of that, a book was born. Out of that, Brandon Holt came into my life 3 months after I fell on that floor over there. 3 months after. Because God did such a fast work in my heart. He did such a fast healing work in my heart. I do not believe that it has to take you years on end to heal from traumatic things. When you give it to Jesus, God will do the work in an accelerated rate. He will restore what was in an accelerated rate. When you give it to God and you steward it well, the anointing of God on your life will carry you in such a way that it does not make sense to other people. It does not make sense. And we traveled for 5 years and we shared the story of being unfiltered. And I took the message to people all over, and I'm having my first pop-up unfiltered conference this month here in Conway, in the same place that I fell to pieces and watched God. And here I am 6 years later, sitting at the same table that I wrote down all of the words that I heard the Lord telling me 6 years ago would be mine. I am sitting at the same table. 6 years ago, it was divorce. 6 years later, I'm a widow. And can I tell you something? I can sit, I'm really, truly, I'm given an opportunity right here. This is what I want you to hear, okay? 6 years later, I'm sitting here with no breast, a cancer survivor twice over, and a widow. In 6 years' time, divorce, 2 rounds of cancer, and a widow. In 6 years' time, I can sit here. I'm not preaching a message from a feel-good standpoint, friend. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I am sitting here telling you, I've been through hell. I've been through hell. And I am given an opportunity once again. Am I going to believe the word of the Lord? Or am I going to believe the circumstance? Am I going to believe what God says? Or am I going to believe what life is saying? Friend, you cannot be moved by what you see, feel, and hear. If you are going to be a man or woman of God, You cannot be moved by your flesh. You cannot be moved by what you see, by what you feel, by what you hear. You have got to get beyond what you physically see. You have got to get beyond what you're seeing right now doesn't even faze you, because your spirit can see so clearly what it is that God is saying. So you can look at the thing in the face that is telling you otherwise. And I refuse to believe what you are saying, because the Spirit of God inside of me says otherwise. The word of the Lord says otherwise. What he says I can have says otherwise. I will not bow my knee to loss and grief. I will not bow my knee to disease. I will not bow my knee to lack. I will not bow my knee to depression. I will not bow my knee to whatever it is in your life, friend. You've got to take responsibility for it. You steward the seed. You steward the seed. You have to work out your salvation. You have to fight the fight of faith. You have to. You cannot dig up the seed of faith and get mad at God that it didn't produce. Because 1 minute you're in faith and 1 minute you're in fear. So you're digging it right back up. And then you have a good moment and you feel like you heard the Lord. So I'm going to put it back in the dirt. And then 2 minutes later, you're angry and worried again because something else happened and you're digging it right back out of the dirt. It doesn't produce if you're constantly digging it up and planting it and digging it up and planting it. What is your endurance going to say about you? Are you going to endure when hell and high water is coming your way? Or are you going to be fickle with what you believe? These are not easy words, and that's why we don't have hundreds of people on here, because I'm not on here trying to make you feel good and give you a goosebump message and look real cool in my Gucci and Versace and all of my things. I'm not on here trying to make friends. I'm on here trying to ruffle your feathers and help you get what God says you can have. I'm not on here to make a following. I'm not on here to go viral. I'm on here to teach some people what it looks like to walk through hell and still have faith in God that he is who he says he is, and he will not fail even when everything is falling apart. It is not over. It's getting into order. You are not done. It might be a detour, but God is not finished. What are you going to believe, friend? What are you going to believe? It's not fun. It's not fair. It's not pretty. Faith is a fight. Faith is hard work. And that's why so many people do not see the will of God in their life, because they do not have any capacity to work out their salvation, because it's hard work. They do not have any capacity to see past what they are looking at physically, because they never truly get in their prayer closet and intercede concerning their life. They want to say patty cake prayers and expect God to do something grand with that. Sometimes you got to get in your prayer closet and you got to show man, you're really weird. Am I really weird? Because I've gotten through some hell and I'm able to stand still. What have you gotten through and you're able to stand still? I'm able to get through the worst loss of my life with joy in my heart still, when it doesn't make sense, because the Spirit of the living God, I have caught revelation that I am not this right here. I have a spirit that is alive inside of me. And that is what is going to determine where I'm going in life. I'm not allowing my flesh to determine what I have. You are a spirit person wrapped up in flesh, and your soul, your mind, your wills, and your mind, will, and emotions will constantly war between what your spirit says God says about you and what your flesh says life is telling you. And until you get in control of your flesh and soul and begin to learn how to be moved only by the Spirit of the living God that is inside of you, you will struggle the rest of your life. Well, how do you do that, Alyssa? I don't understand. You get in your word. You pray. You spend time with the Lord. Are you scrolling your Instagram more than you're talking to Jesus? Are you watching your Netflix and your reality shows more than you're understanding the reality of what God says for you? Can you quote more scriptures than you can quote movies? Can you quote more scriptures than you can spit out song lyrics? If I sat down with you right now and asked you, hey, what is God saying to you right now in this season? Tell me what God is speaking to you. Can't you even tell me what God's speaking to you right now in this season? Hey friend, what have you been studying lately? What book have you been in lately? In the Word. What have you been studying lately? Can you pull out a journal and show me all of the things that you've been studying and what God has been saying to you? Then why do you think that you can truly press through difficult situations if you cannot do the basic fundamentals of things that disciples of God should be doing? Praying, reading your Bible, spending time with the Father, those are basic fundamentals in life concerning our walk with Christ. And we don't do it. We don't do it. And if you do it, ask yourself this: are you doing it out of ritual and routine? Or are you doing it to truly have revelation of who Jesus is? Because sometimes we can also get stuck in a ritual and routine of, oh, well, I did my prayer time this morning and I did my Bible reading of my Proverbs today, and you're not getting anything out of it because it's just become a ritual and routine. What is your heart posture? When you spend time with the Lord, what's the posture of your heart? Are you pursuing the person that you've given your life for, given it to? You've literally sacrificed who you are to walk with this man named Jesus. Or are you just doing it because it's the right thing to do? Every answer that you need for life and living is inside of you. That's what the Word of God says. If you have every answer that you need inside of you, then why are you still struggling? If you have every answer that you need inside of you, then why are you having such a difficult time overcoming things in your life? Always the answer will be this. Always the answer will be this: that you are not stewarding the relationship well. It will never be that God has not. It will never be that God has not. It will never be that God has not. And I know that's not fun. And we might see a bunch of people drop off because they want to blame God. God is not a liar. He is not a man who can lie. He is faithful no matter what your thing is saying, no matter what giant is in your face, no matter what valley you're standing in, no matter what situation you're facing. God does not lie. So the question always comes back to us. What in our life are we not stewarding well? Have you not walked in forgiveness like you need to? Are you not taking time to truly listen to his voice? Is there something he's asked you to do that you've not obeyed? Is there a faith step that he's asking and requiring of you that you're too scared to do? And your answers are on the other side of that mountain, but you're not taking authority over it. The answer will always come back to us. It's not going to be on God. God's will is his word. It's his final say. It's yes and amen. But there is a work that we must do when it comes to his will. We cannot expect the word to produce on its own. The word will produce when we work the word, when we utilize it in faith, when we stand on it and believe it. The word always says the working of the word is belief. The way that you even became saved was to believe. Confess with your mouth, which is speaking, and believing with your heart that Jesus is Lord, right? So anything else in your life that you need to work in faith is going to require speaking and believing. 2 Corinthians 4:13 says, I believed, therefore I spoke. And I spoke, therefore I believed. Speaking and believing is the working of your faith. They go hand in hand. You cannot believe without speaking the word, and you cannot speak the word without believing and expect it to produce. If you want it to produce, you have to do the two at the same time. Speak it and believe it. That's how you work your faith. That's how you steward your seeds. What is the seeds that you plant? The words of your mouth. Life and death are in the power of your tongue. You are planting things all the time. And what produces in your life is because you stewarded that thing in your life. You stewarded it. You cultivated it. You created an atmosphere for it to grow. You nurtured that thing. So if you're wanting something to grow that hasn't grown, peace, rest, joy, whatever it is in your life, provision, You're not stewarding it correctly if it's not producing. These aren't easy words, but I just wanted to get on here and I wanted to share with you I'll just never forget sitting here, man. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget sitting here. I literally did not know what was going to come of my life. I did not know what God was going to do. I did not know how he was going to work it. I did not know how he was going to restore it. And 3 months later, I made a decision sitting right here at this picnic table that I will not give up. I will not quit. I will steward my dirt well, because destiny will be seen. And 3 months later, Brandon Holt came into my life. I wrote a book. We traveled the world. We impacted thousands and thousands of people and still are impacting thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Even in his death. And here I sit again, and the Lord is asking, what will you believe? And this is why it's so important to recall what God has done before. Because if he did it before, if he brought you through a hard space before, he'll bring you through a hard place again. If he showed you how he can take something that's dead and he could bring forth much fruit, he'll do it again. He'll do it again, and it may not be the same, but he's going to do it because he's faithful. It may not be exactly how it was before, but he's faithful. He's faithful. He is always faithful. You have to recall what God has done before, because friend, I'm just here to tell you, I'm just gonna be real honest with you. If I didn't take time to document over my life, and this is just something the Lord dealt with me since I was 14 years old, and I'm not saying I'm better, and I'm not saying that, nothing like that. This is just my reality. The Lord dealt with me from the time I was 14 years old to write down everything that God has done for me. I have journals and journals and journals and journals since I was 14. That's 20 years. No. Yeah, that's 20 years ago. I have so many journals of prayers that had been answered. Small, minute, big, and impossible. What God has done. And can I tell you, if I did not document them, I wouldn't have remembered them. Because some of them are just things that you can think are just silly, nothing that's impactful. But for me, in those moments, they were very impactful. It could be a moment where I felt like I was just so inadequate and nobody saw me. And what I have to offer is nothing. And whether or not I'm here or not is not even valued. And all of a sudden, the Lord had somebody call me. Out of nowhere, out of the blue, they just called me. I hadn't heard from them in years. Hey, I just felt like I needed to call you and reach out and tell you that you are worth it. That you're loved. And I wrote it down in my journal. Just moments of God just showing me who I am. I encourage you to write it down. Because when you're sitting in spaces that seem hopeless, you need to be able to recall what God has done before. That is going to, back in the day, they would sit and they would tell the stories of their ancestors. They would tell the stories of their ancestors and what God has done. The miracles, the signs, the wonders. They would sit with all of the children and the families, and they would sit and tell of the stories of the God that they served and what he had done. They remembered, they recalled. And I just wonder how many of us are sitting with our families. How many of us are sitting with our families and remembering? How many of us are sitting with our families and recalling the stories of what God has done? Do we even believe in that anymore.
Once there were two mice who became friends at Mouse College.
Oh, okay. Okay, my watch wants to tell a story of a mouse who went to college. Because I said something about stories. I just wonder. I wonder how many of us are genuinely sitting and telling our children who God has been in our life. Maybe our kids don't believe because they've never really truly heard anything that God has done that's really relevant to our family history. You know, one thing that Brandon and I were so strategic in was not withholding anything from our children. When it came to our cancer journey, we were not, we weren't one of those that hid the seriousness of what was happening from the girls. Not because we wanted to instill fear and not because we didn't want to protect their hearts and minds, but because we knew who God is and we know what we were believing for. And we wanted them to see in real time the miracle working wonders of God and how he can take a horrible situation and he can still be who he says he is in the word. And there were some people that did not agree. They were like, you know, you shouldn't share too much with the girls. That's going to instill fear. You know, they're still young. You need to protect them. And I'm like, protect them from what? We're not giving disease more power than we give the name of Jesus. We're not giving cancer more power than Christ. Okay? Christ is greater than cancer. And what God says is greater than what the report says over my body. And I'm teaching them in real time what it looks like to stand in faith. And I'll never forget that we went, they knew the circumstances. And we went to an oncologist appointment where they were going to biopsy a tumor that I had in my breast. And the doctor went to biopsy it and he searched for it for 15 minutes and couldn't find it. And I came out of the room and the girls were like, "Are you okay, Mom?" You know? And I just started laughing and they were like, what? And I was like, it's gone. The tumor's gone. The tumor's not there anymore. It's gone. And the girls literally started jumping up and down in the waiting room, rejoicing and celebrating the miracle wonders of God. Now, there's a lot of people that can say, but Alyssa, you still lost your breast. Yes, I did lose my breast. But what if what if God hadn't taken care of that tumor and that tumor spread to other areas of my body and it was no longer contained to just my breast? Then it got into other issues in my body and it became a bigger fight and a bigger struggle. You don't know why God does what he does and how the miracles work in your favor. And it's not my job to figure out, well, what if God can make a tumor disappear? How come he couldn't have saved my breast? That's not my job to figure out. Maybe he allowed that tumor to dissolve, one, to show that doctor that he's still real and that miracles still work. But two, to save me from further disease in my body, even knowing that I was still going to lose some pieces, but I would not lose my life. And see, some of y'all are trying to figure out why losses happened in your life and you don't understand when you saw other miracles and you saw other things that God worked for your favor. Why did that loss still happen? You don't understand because you don't need to understand. There are things that God sees that you do not see. And as long as you're trying to figure it out on your own, you will torment yourself forever trying to figure it out. You just got to trust that God has a better plan than you do. But the question for the day today, and I know that there's so many people that need to hear this word because so many people are struggling with faith and they have no clue that faith is a fight. It says it in the word. It literally says it in the word that it's a fight, and yet we're expecting it to be fun. I don't get it. I don't get why we get so discouraged that we're fighting when the word is very clear, it's a fight. Why do we get so discouraged that it's not just fun? Faith is a fight. It is not fun. It is not fair. It is not pretty. And there's so many people that have the ability to turn their situation, but they will not steward it with a posture of a fighting position. I'm going to protect the seed that I have planted at all cost. The atmosphere around it so it can grow. The people that come into my life so that they don't damage it. I'm going to water it. I'm going to steward it. I'm going to position myself to make sure this thing does not get uprooted instead of digging it up every time something goes wrong. It's a journey. It's a journey. But God is always faithful to reward. I'm telling you something. The fight of faith, the reward for fighting in faith is great. Okay? The reward for fighting in faith is great. Listen to me. But the sacrifice of sitting in fear, it could be detrimental. The sacrifice of sitting in fear can be detrimental. I hope you can hear me. Because you will sacrifice, staying in fear, you will sacrifice everything God said was yours. Sitting in fear, you will sacrifice your promise, your destiny. You will sacrifice the harvest that he said is yours. You will sacrifice things that generations to come should be benefiting from in your life, but you sacrifice that not only for you, but for many people after you. You've messed up what they should have received from you as well. It's not just about you. It's about those that are coming after you. It's about those who are around you, who are watching. Can I tell you how many thousands of messages I get all the time? My inboxes are flooded with people, especially on TikTok, because I have like 18,000 followers over there. People that are constantly telling me, your story has helped me get through my hell. If it weren't for you, I don't know how I would have done this. I did not understand faith until I saw you walking it out. I did not understand why these things were happening and how to continue to endure until I watched you do it. There are days that people text me all the time. They're like, there are days that I tell myself, I know it's hard, but if Alyssa can do it, I can do it. And that's not to toot my own horn. That's not to say I'm nobody. I'm humble enough to tell you I'm a nobody. I'm a nobody, no name. I'm nothing. Jesus. He's the one that gets the glory. He's the one that wrote my story. He's the one that helps me stand. He's the one that gets me to my next place. He's the one that helps me steward this thing. If it weren't for Jesus, I couldn't have done it. I couldn't have done it because I'm a failure in and of myself. I fall down. I question things. I get in fear. I second guess. I get scared. Do you hear what I'm saying? My point, though, is that me stewarding this season has been more about, less about me, and more about the people around me who have benefited from me fighting my fight of faith. Friend, I need you to hear that. There are people around you that you don't even understand are watching you. And others will benefit from your fight of faith because of how you fought. It makes it so much heavier, the responsibility. It makes it so much heavier. I can't give up because if I give up, others are going to quit. I can't stop here because if I stop here, other people will stop. Do you hear what I'm saying? Like, we need you. We need you to fight your fight of faith. We need you to stand in the gap. We need you to steward your seed well. We need you to nurture that thing. We need you to not give up. We need you. We need you. Because we will benefit from your walk. When we're going through something that's similar, we're able to recall your story and what God did through you. And I hope that you will recognize the weightiness of your walk with God and stop making it about, well, if God said it, he'll do it on his own. The will of God requires work. I'm going to say it again. The will of God requires work. If he gave you a word, whether it's in his word, if he gave you a word, whether it's in his whether it was in your prayer time, whether it was from a man or woman of God, that word is not prediction. It's an opportunity for the creative work of God to produce the will of God in your life. God spoke, let there be light, and there was light, not out of prediction, out of creation. He created. It does not say that the 7 days of prediction happened. It said the 7 days of creation happened, and creation took place with a word. If God gave you a word, he's not predicting this is how it's going to be no matter what you do. If he gave you a word, he is saying he's starting a creative process in you so that that thing can take root. You've got to be the one to steward that creative process. You've got to be the one to walk with him in that creative process, not to uproot things, not to walk against it, not to fight against it, but to work with him, to fight with him, to steward it well. Then you will see that thing come to pass. If it's his will, there has to be a work done with it. It will not just fall in your lap. It has to be worked out. And that's why so many people get frustrated and they try to say people are false prophets because it didn't happen. And then I ask them, well, what did you do to help that happen? Some of these people, I sit down with them and I actually have a relationship with them to ask them the questions. I'm like, what did you do to help God steward that? So he said that you would have a business, and did you even cast vision? Did you even sit down and write the vision plan out, the business plan out? Did you even try to cast the vision to people who could help you? Did you even try to start that GoFundMe to help you with the startup fees for that thing? Did you even sit down and sketch out the things that you're wanting to design? Did you try to do the research and the work on how much it's going to cost you to get this thing going? Did you do any work? Or did you just hear the word of the Lord? Yes, that business idea is the word of the Lord for your life, and that is going to be produced. And you're just sitting around waiting for somebody to magically knock on your door and say, oh, I heard the word of the Lord that you've got a business idea and I want to partner with you. And you're just sitting around waiting for some magical thing to happen. It doesn't make any sense, guys. It does not make any sense. When God told Noah to build the ark, he told him that a storm was coming. A storm was coming. They had not seen rainfall in forever. He told him that a storm was coming, and he gave him a plan. He did not sit around and say, oh yeah, well, that was the word of the Lord, and he gave me a plan, so all of the supplies and everything's just going to magically produce here. It's just going to magically produce here. It's just going to magically show up. No, he had to do some work. He had to go gather some stuff. He had to go vision cast and tell some people what is fixing to happen. He had to do some hard work. And the thing happened that the Lord told him would happen, right? And I think sometimes we're just ignorant. We're so ignorant. We think, well, if there's a prophecy and the Lord told us, then it's just going to magically fall in our lap. No, that is so wrong. The will of the Lord requires the work of faith. That requires us to do something with God. You're partnering with him. You're stewarding that word by partnering with him. You do what you can, and God will do it. You do what you can. I said that wrong. You do what you can, and God will do what you can't, right? And you're not doing, I'm going to say it again. You do not do the work to prove to God that you're worth it, and that you're qualified, and that you're clean enough. You're not doing the work for the will that he told you is your life promise to prove anything. You're doing it to partner with him. You don't have to prove to him. Jesus died on the cross so you don't have to prove, because you never can prove. And if you're doing it from the posture of proving, that faith will not take root because it's the wrong posture. When you're doing the work because you're partnering with him and you're understanding, now I'm practicing the dominion and authority he's given me, that's when things start producing. I have a crew online, and I am with my crew every day. Most of the time I'm with them every day unless I'm traveling, and we do Bible study every day. So we take a scripture and we dissect it every single day in the crew. And then we go live Thursday nights, and we do a big Zoom call where we actually dig into a lesson every Thursday night, but every day we do a Bible study. And then I have worksheets for them from time to time, and we do series together over there, and we're fixing to do our first fall retreat in November in the mountains. It's going to be so much fun. So if you want to be a part of these kind of talks all the time, you need to be a part of my crew, because this is something they get all the time over there. So you can sign up for that right here on my website to be a part of the crew. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I mean, how long have we been on here? It's been a while. 58 minutes. So we've been on here a while. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you got something from it. I know it's a hard word. I know it's a hard word. You know, it's funny to me how I laugh at the fact that I can scroll through TikTok and there are hundreds and thousands of people that will sit on these live feeds that do nothing for them. Hundreds and thousands of people that will sit on live feeds where people are just standing there like cooking dinner and just talking about regular life, and they're complaining about life, and they're not doing nothing to help people in their life. It's not teaching nobody nothing. It ain't gaining, you don't gain nothing from it. It's just mindless, stupid live feeds. And those things will blow up. But when you've got real revelation, you're walking through real life things, and you can really help people completely shift the spiritual dynamic of their life and the physical dynamic of their life. It's like you can barely get anybody on, because Brandon would get so discouraged. He would get so discouraged because he would go live for worship and barely anybody be on there. And he's like, man, I'm trying to teach people how to shift the dynamic of their worship, how to shift the dynamic of their praise. And we would have these conversations all the time, that the way that we're living right now, we're so desensitized. We're so desensitized to anything that God is trying to do. And we're more aware of what's happening in our real life. I'm talking about real life as in like our fleshly life. We're more aware of those things, that we have become so desensitized to the work of the word, and so desensitized to our responsibility in the spirit. And we've got to shift that. We've got to shift that. We've got to put a priority on that. We've got to make those things go viral. If the church would make those things go viral and stop making the stupid little things on TikTok and the reels that don't make no sense and they don't add nothing to our life go viral, everything would start shifting. Everything would start shifting, because people would start getting free. And people would start realizing, man, I have authority in my life. I don't have to just sit down and be overcome with depression. I don't have to just sit down and be overcome with suicidal thoughts. I don't have to just sit down and be overcome with lack. I don't just have to sit down and be overcome with all the things that are coming my way. I actually can shift this on my own. I shift it because I take responsibility. And so anyway, you guys do me a favor and share this, because I know there's more people that need to hear it. I love you guys so much. If you want to see me, I'm going to be in Edmond, Oklahoma, Lexington, Oklahoma in the next week. And then the 24th, I will be in Conway for my pop-up event. I'm actually posting a video today concerning the details of that. I'm actually headed to the church here in a minute. And we will be recording a video outside of the place that we're going to be having the pop-up event. And so you guys help me share that and RSVP for that by texting my number down there. Text the word Arkansas to RSVP your spot for free for that. I will post, Cassandra, I don't remember the date. On my page, there is a graphic with all of my dates on it. I will repost it to my stories today. Okay, I'll post that graphic with all my dates to my stories, and you can check out the Edmond, Oklahoma date and see when that will be. And that, I think, is either this Sunday or next Sunday. It's either this Sunday or next Sunday. So, and then if you want to book me, you guys know you can go to my website and book me. If you want to get a hold of any prayer cards, my book, you want to get a hold of worship music, you want to get a hold of any of the resources I have, it's on my website. So you guys go check out what I have over there. I have new shirts coming. I'm so excited about them. They say, I win because Jesus won. He said it. I believe it. That settles it. And I will be in South Carolina, Easley, South Carolina, September 19th through 21st. It's a tent revival at Bridge Church. I will do worship the 19th and 20th, and I'll be preaching the 21st. So Easley, South Carolina. You definitely should come see me over there. I'll be in, let me think of the places that we have coming up. Floresville, Texas, possibly in November. I'll be in Vegas in October. I'll be in Tucson, Arizona in October. I'll be in Douglas, Georgia in November. I'll be in Canton, Georgia in December. So yeah, our calendar's filling up. Listen, if you guys want me on your calendar, you guys definitely go hit up a booking form over on my website. I would love to get you on the books and come and speak into your people, pray for you guys. Listen, we were just in Bernice, Oklahoma this past weekend, and gosh, it was amazing. It was amazing. The words that were spoken over people and just what God was doing. Suicidal thoughts because of grief and loss in people's lives. They were getting free from just grief and loss, and it causing them to not want to be alive. And we were able to break those spirits of suicide off of people and just really speak purpose into people's lives. It's been really awesome to see what God is doing on the road. So definitely come see me. If you want to partner with the ministry, you guys, if you get anything out of these talks and you want to partner with the ministry, definitely go to my website, partner with me. Every bit of money that comes into the ministry helps me go and do these pop-up events on the road without being a burden to the church. So people are able to say we have a venue and we're not necessarily charging them to come and speak. So we're just able to come and minister and be a blessing to the community. And so your partnerships help us do that. And also we give a portion of every bit of that money to cancer patients, single parents, and widows. And me and my kids are actually, when we get back to Florida in a week and a half, we are actually putting together blessing bags for the chemo facility in Florida. And we are putting together 100 blessing bags for the chemo facility. And it's going to be so much fun. We're putting in there prayer cards. We're putting in there some basic necessities like lotion, ginger candies, peppermint candies because you get nauseated, sanitizer, hand sanitizer because your immune system's so messed up all the time. And then we're going to do little prayer cards that I did during chemo while I was sitting in those chairs. We're going to put our prayer cards in there for them to do while they're doing chemo. We're going to put some devotional books in there. And my daughter is making some bracelets that say I win on the bracelets, and we're going to put a little message in there talking about how they win because Jesus won, just like Brandon and I shared with everybody through my cancer journey. And so y'all have helped us be able to have the money to put together 100 blessing bags for people who are going through chemo this month. Last month we gave 2 widows, and we're able to sow into some widows who were unable to pay bills. And y'all helped us do that. And the month before, we sewed into single parents and filled up 2 specific families' cabinets with food and helped them feed their babies for a couple of weeks. So that's the kind of work you guys help me do when you partner with the ministry. You're not just giving. I saw somebody today post something about don't be letting these gypsy evangelists who are running from city to city asking if they can preach in your church and all they want is money. The truth is money is required to do ministry. That's the truth. You can't make an impact in this world without money. You can't make an impact without having some sort of resources to help people facilitate the blessing of God in their life. And I am blessed and honored to be able to recruit people who are like, you know what, I want to make an impact beyond the church. I don't just want to give my money, just in the church. I also want to give my money to get outside of the church. Yes, don't get me twisted. Don't twist my words. You need to be tithing to your home church. If you get fed in a church, you need to be tithing to the church that you're being fed in. And you need to be supporting that ministry so that they can do what God has called them to do as a ministry. But for me, the Lord has called us, me and Brandon, we were called to reach outside of the church walls and to do more outside of the church walls. So we were bringing the kingdom to the world, and you guys are helping us actually get to do that in individuals' lives, people who don't even have a relationship with God, and we're able to show them the love of God and plant a seed of faith to show them they're not forgotten, but they're seen. They're not dirty and distant. They're clean and close, that God has a plan for them. And even when they least expected to have anybody reach out and give them something, boom, God showed up, and that's what y'all are helping me do. So I am just thankful for everyone who partners, everyone who gets on there and sows a seed into Ladder House Co. That's our ministry, that we're able to do that. So we're going to go live when we do our blessing bags and we fill our blessing bags. We're going to go live and we're going to pray and intercede over these blessing bags together. And I'm going to let you guys in on that with us. As me and my girls fill the blessing bags, you guys can come on and pray over them with us and be a part of that. And I'm going to try to go live. I don't know for sure if they're going to let us go back to the chemo room and hand out the bags, or if they're just going to let us deliver the bags to the front desk and they'll hand them out. But regardless, we might try to do some vlogging. I just got a new camera system to be able to vlog what God is doing on the road and what he's doing in these outreaches that you guys are helping us with when you partner with Ladder House Co. So we're going to vlog whether or not we are able to go back and hand out the bags, we'll vlog that, or whether or not we just deliver them, we'll vlog that. And you guys can see the impact that we are making together for the kingdom. And God is good. He's so good. He's so, so, so good that in the midst of grief, in the midst of loss, in the midst of horrible circumstances, he can still use us to make big impacts for the kingdom. And that's what I'm so thankful for, is that I'm not so consumed with what this physical life says. I'm more consumed with my eternity. What impact I am making for my eternity. When you shift that in your head, you start seeing things differently. You're not so wrapped up in what's happening to you, because you're understanding what you're working towards, you know. I'm able to rejoice because my husband is where I am working towards heading. He is waiting for me where I am working towards heading. And if I get caught up in what I've lost, if I get so consumed, do I have bad days? Yes, guys. I cry. I still have bad days. I was just crying last night. I miss him. He's my best friend. He's my ministry partner. He was my best friend. He was my soulmate. He was my one true love, like, for real. But when I focus more on the fact that he's waiting for me where I'm headed and he's cheering me on to keep on doing the work that we were doing, that gives me power to keep moving instead of just sitting down and dwelling on what it is that I've lost and what it is that we don't have anymore, you know. And so I want to encourage you to keep on pressing towards what God has called you to do. Ask yourself, how can I make a difference in this world? What can I do to make an impact? And start pressing towards that to make the impact with him. I love y'all. I love y'all. I hope this encouraged you. Listen, I've got a new podcast that just came out today. Go listen to it. It is about how to steward. No, it's about practicing. That's what it's called. Practicing your dominion over the destruction in your life. Practicing the dominion over the destruction in your life. Unfiltered with Alyssa Holt. You can go check it out. I'm going to post it here in just a minute so you can click the links. But you can go to any podcast platform. Unfiltered with Alyssa Holt. Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all of the podcast platforms. And YouTube is uploading right now the video version of the podcast. If you want to go check that out, Alyssa Holt over on YouTube. It's a really good one. It's going to encourage you this morning. If this morning encouraged you, that podcast will encourage you even deeper in the topic that we just discussed. So it's free. It's encouraging. It's going to help you. You guys go listen to it. Practicing dominion over the destruction in your life. And I will catch you guys later. You guys don't forget to VIP, RSVP, yeah, RSVP the pop-up event in Conway by texting my number, Arkansas, to my number down below. And I will see you guys August 24th at my first pop-up event here in Conway, Arkansas. And I will see you guys later. Look, there's my aunt's horse over there. I don't know if you can see it through the trees. I don't think I can zoom in, but he's back there. Dakota. It's beautiful out here. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later.